Hi everybody, welcome to the project walkthrough for the Usable Design Analysis project. It's a part of WATS4010 User Science and Testing. So in this project we're going to look at a website of our choosing, of your choosing. You should probably try to find some site. I find that local businesses are really great. Smaller websites are really great because often folks have sort of had to make do and there's room for improvement. But you can apply this to larger and more corporate websites as well. The focus for this project is to look at the design from a usability perspective. So we often look at design from an aesthetic perspective. We look at design from sort of a representational perspective a lot, in terms of styles of design, movements, and meanings and so forth. But we often sort of don't really think about it when we're looking at design from a usable perspective. But we do it all the time, driving on roads and so forth. Road signs have to be well designed so that you can read them as you're traveling at high speeds. Symbols have to be universal and understandable, regardless of language and culture. There's all sorts of things that go into designing for the user. And so on the web, that's no different. We want to take a look at some website and think about design. So we've read the things you need to get right section of Krug's book. That does talk about designing navigation and the importance of web design for getting people off on the right foot on your website and web project. So we're going to apply some of the lessons from that section as well as guidelines that we have in our resources for this week. And we're going to take a look. We're going to think about, navigational elements. We're going to think about whether or not content is being presented with clear hierarchies, whether or not we know where we are, or what we're looking at on each page. Sometimes content hides, people don't realize that they can scroll. And sometimes, using big blinking signs and bouncing arrows to tell people that they can scroll isn't really the best design. So it depends. What's the right solution there? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we want to ask ourselves about this. And then, of course, we want to ultimately compile our materials that we've gotten from analyzing the site, our artifacts of analyzing the site. We're going to compile that into a report that we're going to post on our user science journal. And we're going to make sure that we talk through all the criteria that we used to analyze the site. Now, as you're working on this, we have some helpful resources. We have the Krug book. Usability.gov has a great section about user interface design, which is really a really excellent read and can help you come up with criteria to use to analyze your site for this project. And then we have a excellent slideshow that is by Stephen Shavanik from the Red Cross about what or talking about the Red Cross and how things can be improved in terms of building trust and loyalty within the sign-up process. So a good thought piece that sort of does some of the analysis that, models some of the analysis that you might be applying. So worthwhile to click through and see how someone else sort of approaches looking at other websites and talking about the pros and cons of their usability and from a design perspective. So I also wanted to mention this week that these tools we have in the project resources for making your posts more interesting are really helpful, and you should be using them. You should be using, screenshots, and you can annotate screenshots where it's helpful. And you should just be using any kind of media that would help us understand what you're talking about in your reports. So Sketch is a tool that is owned by Evernote, and it's free and available for Mac and very handy for making screenshots and then annotating them. You can blur out sensitive data as well. So sometimes when you're analyzing websites, if you were analyzing like a bank website, you don't want to show your account numbers, so you can blur out sensitive data in the image. Greenshot is essentially the same thing but for PCs, so you might check that out. And then there's Snagit, which does screenshots and screencasting and works within the Google browser. And so this is available for everything, and it's free. So you may as well give it a shot and see if it helps you out. Use these tools to get screenshots and then annotate them, to highlight things. But even just a screenshot of the specific thing you're talking about will help illustrate. So whether or not you annotate, use screenshots to illustrate your report. And make sure that whatever other media you can work in there to help us understand what you're talking about, you do. So that's it. Again, the UX study overview template still sort of applies, and there's a lot more good resources here on the usability.gov source, so I encourage you to be exploring that as well as you're working on these things. That's all. Good luck with your usability project, your usable design analysis project, and I will look forward to seeing the results. Bye-bye.